Hi guys, thank you for joining me today. I am Abby. We are working today inside my office and we're going to talk about planning out a garden space. My baby is on her mat right in front of me. You can't see her. I might give you a peek at some point today, but you will probably hear her in the background, so that's just letting you know why you hear baby talk in the background. Anyway, we moved into this house less than a year ago and we haven't yet built the garden. That is our big goal for next spring, is to have a very good garden. And right now we are preparing for that this winter by planning it out. So I'm going to take you with me as I plan it out. I am planning it out using a grid on my Surface Book. You could plan it on paper with grid paper, or really any other free notes type app that allows you to do a background that is gridded. You do want grid paper so that you can create a good scale drawing. I used to be a middle school math teacher, so I can nerd out about scale drawings. That is something I taught my students. I won't go too much into that part of it, but I will show you how to design a garden. We're making our garden with raised beds, and the important thing about raised beds are they're not going to move. I guess some are movable. Ours are going to have stakes in the ground, so they are definitely not going to be movable. And that means it's really important to us to get it right in the first time. Also, this is our forever home, our forever farm. So we want this to be, exactly how we want it when we build it. That is why it's so important to plan it out. If you are just gardening and putting things directly into the ground where you could change it every year, trial and error might be the best. But if you're making a permanent structure, you definitely want to plan it out. All right, I just finished drawing my plan, and I was going to take you through the process with me, but I kept having things I was having to rechange, and it was taking me a long time. So for the sake of a shorter, more concise video, I've decided to just walk you through my thought process and show you the end result. My first thing I considered was the materials I was using to build the raised bed and the fence that I used. So I used 10-foot by 6-foot tall panels, and I ended up with a 40-foot by 60-foot rectangle. And that is the space I am using for my complete garden. For the beds, I am using a piece of tin that is going to be 2 foot wide by 12 foot long. The width is going to be how high they are, so they're going to be 2 feet off the ground, which I think is perfect. I still have to bend over some, but that's going to give me a reasonable amount to fill, and it will allow me to still work on my knees if I want to. So I think it's a good height. Also, this tin is from my mother and father-in-law. They used it on the roof of their house, and they have some extra pieces to get us started. So I can't turn down free materials. So we are going to just go with this. I think it's going to work out perfect. We will have to get some more. And the reason I was planning my garden now was to figure out how much more we needed. We're actually building our barn this weekend, and it's always smart to buy your tin together in bulk, and you can get a better deal. So that is why I was focused today on planning out my garden. Now, keep in mind, this may be subject to change. I have to get the approval from the master contractor, my husband. He knows a little bit more about building solid structures that work. So he might end up vetoing some of this plan, but we've talked a lot about it, and I think I've taken into consideration the things he has talked about. And so I'm hopeful that this is the final plan. I will close off this video talking to him, and he'll let you know whether or not this worked out. So here is the plan. What I did first is I had to create a grid background on the back of this whiteboard app. A lot of times they're going to have a format background option. That is where it is in whiteboard if you are using a Surface Book. Then what I did next was I went through and I made these little tick marks so I know how far apart every 5 feet was. This helped me draw like 60 feet by 40 feet. Otherwise, I would have been continuing to recount because I'd lose count. And I know this because at first I didn't draw the tick marks, and it's a lot easier when you do. So I drew the tick marks, then I used my little shape tool and I drew this rectangle. So this is a 40-foot by 60-foot rectangle. Like I said, that just worked out because of the amount of panels we had and space we had. We wanted to get as big a pin as possible, within reason, and also using the panels that I already had from my father. Right, so there we have it. The next step I did was to draw our gates. So you can see the gates in these four corners. They and these two are bigger because we do want to be able to drive a tractor in to fill up some of these raised garden beds. And so we made those two bigger, and this one is smaller because it's just a gate I can walk through. I don't think I'll do a gate in this back corner. This is probably going to just be, it has quite a bit of space. I am getting a load of leaves, so I thought maybe I would put the leaves here in that spot, until we get the beds built. Once we get the beds built, these back beds here might end up being my compost beds. But I'm jumping ahead of myself. So after I found out where my gates were going to be, I then worked on making my raised beds on the outer edge of my pen. So because I am using a 6-foot tall paneling that have little small holes, that is the perfect trellis. So it would make no sense not to put beds right beside it and utilize that as a trellis, because there's a lot of plants, including even tomatoes, that really need a trellis or something that they can be tied to and supported with. So my first thing, and the first beds we're going to build even, are the ones here on the outside. I decided that when possible, it's better not to have to cut things. So I'm going to try to keep these uh, pieces of tin the full 12 feet and not cut them. This will Dannon has to confirm with me whether or not that makes sense with lumber. So that could be subject to change. But the whole plan, I am making the assumption that I don't want to have to cut that tin if at all possible. So I'm just making them all 12 feet long. 12 feet isn't too bad. Like I can walk around 12 feet really easily. It's not like I don't have to go very far out of my way to walk around them. So I think 12 feet's great as long as it works with lumber. The width of the bed, 4 feet is kind of perfect for a normal garden bed because you can reach over 2 feet on either side. By the way, I realized I didn't tell you, I am treating each one of these little units as 1 feet. So that's the scale factors. Each of these little units here are 1 foot. I kind of jumped past that. You maybe could tell what I was talking about when I was talking about the tick marks, but just to let you know. So each of the unit are 1 feet. So here you see this bed right here is 4 feet across. That means from this side I should be able to work 2 feet, and from that side I should be able to work 2 feet. I probably can get anywhere between 2 and 3 rows of produce in those beds. Notice though, on the outside edges, I've only made the beds 2 feet. The reason why is because I can't work on them from the outer direction. I can only access them from the inside. So if I were to make them 4 feet across, I would never be able to get to the plants that were right by the fence. So I did decide to only make them 2 feet so that I could get to all of the surface. So each of these are 2 feet wide and 12 feet long. I did go ahead and plan on putting a little piece of tin in between them. That's another structural thing I'm not positive if we'll need, so we might not need it. Of course, we're going to do a piece of tin in the background. I didn't draw that. So there is going to be a piece of tin back here. I didn't draw that only because, that's interesting. Why is it drawing black? Okay, distracted. Anyway, I am going to draw a piece, I'm going to put a piece of tin on the background. It just wasn't necessary to draw that, so that's why I didn't. The next thing, so when deciding where to put these beds, I wanted to maximize space while still leaving enough room around the gate to maneuver something like a tractor. So here, notice I have this 5 feet over, but this one's 7 feet over because this is the gate and you're going to need to be able to turn the tractor in here. I did go ahead and put 2 beds on either side just because the 8 feet that you could hold them off the gates on either side ended up being perfect. I didn't need to just do 1 bed here. There should be more than enough room to drive a tractor through there. So that is how I decided where to put these on this side and on this side. I could have maybe slipped in 1 more bed, but again, then it starts to get a little bit tight and you're blocking doorways and it's just not necessary. If I changed anything, I could move this down and put a bed over there, but again, this is a lot to work with. I think we have plenty of space for now. So that is the information why I put them on the outside edges, the ones on the inside. So I was thinking about only doing them every 3 feet apart because I was planning to walk down, but once I put all of the beds in here, I noticed that you couldn't fit another bed with them being 3 feet apart, so I might as well just use that extra 4 feet and spread them out a little bit farther and make them 4 feet apart. A benefit of them being 4 feet apart is that we could drive the lawnmower through there up until I get it mulched enough and enough rocks and different things added in there where I have the grass under control. So if necessary, I don't want to, but I could use the lawnmower in here with them being 4 feet apart. That wasn't my main consideration. My main consideration was maximizing space, but not having just some big gap on one end or the other. So it ended up working perfectly that there is 4 feet between the edges and each other. This is why you plan it out, because you can make it work like this. All right, so I didn't actually put these all 3 in the center. I did add extra room over here and less over here, just 4 feet over here, and then we have, I think, 10 feet, 10 minus 2, 8 feet between these 2 over here. And again, that's just because I'm planning on driving the tractor through here. The tractor is mostly going to be used as we build these beds. We're going to come fill them up with dirt with the tractor. So that means when I'm building, I will start building on this far left-hand side first and on the outside, and then I will build the next row, fill it up, next row, fill it up, next row. Also, you noticed I did put a table here in the center. That is because I want to, I don't know if it's going to be 4 foot by 4 foot, but I think that amount of space would be perfect. Put some little table, maybe a gazebo at some point where I can put down my produce and take care of it, maybe record videos like this at that table, and I think that will be perfect. So I did add the table there. So a recap, things to keep in mind: your distance between your beds, making sure that you're maximizing space, so play around with it and don't have a big gap one place and then it tight together in another spot. Make sure you're building based off your materials, so think about what you're going to be building with first and then make your plan. And make sure that things are reasonable for like how far you can reach across, how far you need to walk, things like that. I'm going to show this plan to Dannon here in just a second and we'll see what he thinks. Good morning. We finally had the opportunity for Dannon to come look at my blueprint to give his final approval, so I know if I need to change anything or not. We're up early, we normally are, and we're going to build the barn today, which is going to be a lot of fun. But before we do, I wanted to finish this garden plan. Dannon, you want to come see it?
All right, let's look at it.
All right. I gotta see it. Go down lower. Okay. All right. So we have. I went ahead and did 4 by 12 foot beds.
Okay.
And this 12 foot. Yeah. So you don't have to cut the metal as much. And I went with 4 feet between them because it ended up. Look how perfectly it lined up where there was 4 feet.
Mm-hmm.
And there was That's what I was thinking. And then the gate, I made the gate 6 foot on this side. That should be big enough for a tractor. That's 4.5 feet. Do you think 6 foot's enough?
Might have to go 8 foot.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
We could hold this
gate.
over and make it just 3 foot on this side. So I can hold it
How
over.
big is that gate?
3 foot. That's just my walk-in gate.
That'd be fine. Yeah,
And
it's
I
all
mean, if I ever did mow in here, we could bring the lawnmower through the other gate. Which I was honestly thinking the tractor gate we'll never use except in the very beginning when we're filling it up.
You might not really have a tractor gate. You might just, if you ever need to run a tractor in there, you just take a panel down.
Well, we just have to I can make sure that we hold this over so there is 8 foot between this and the edge of the wall. Because right now it's held over like 7 foot. There's 7 foot distance. My only other thing, and I put 8 feet between this raised bed and this one over here.
How's the farthest the distance there?
That is 8 feet.
So you could put your gate there. Well, no, because you can't.
No.
You could come in from that. So now your greenhouse is going to be there.
Right. But this is perfect. See
I'll
how
make
that,
it that side.
huh?
You could have a gate right there if you wanted to.
We'll just hold that over, and I'll make this raised bed exactly 3 foot, and then that will give me another 2 foot on this side and make it like 9 foot on that side. So that's what I'll do.
Junky.
All right, so we had to change up a little bit, but I think other than that, we like it.
We're going to build it.
Okay.
Build it and they will grow.
Okay, if you're interested in seeing like a little bit more about the fence, I have a video about like wiring it up, and I show a little bit more about how we built it. You can watch that one next if you want to, and don't forget to subscribe and follow along if you think we could add value to your life.